welcome, and hopefully this isn't too loud. I'm going to talk about data centers and just kind of cover the broad spectrum here. So we look at some of the things we're going to learn today is that getting to this green concept is not a one-time thing. It's an ongoing journey, okay? The data center, there's been a lot of focus and a lot of papers that you read that tend to focus on what to do within the four walls. But the data center is actually much more than the four walls. And we're going to talk to that today. And then, of course, it's not always easy being green, so could have had the Kermit the Frog thing, but you know, there's a lot of different challenges that impede the advancement to getting to being greener, and we'll kind of learn more about that. And then, of course, throughout, you'll see some of the results that we've had, and through an ongoing focus here, you can see there can be some pretty substantive results in that area. So just a little bit about Nortel. We're a global company, so that means that we've got quite a bit of complexity that we have to manage. We've got quite a bit of assets that we have to be on top of as an IT group. We actually run the company on our own products because we make telecommunications products. So that allows us to serve as a service integrator and learn from that to help our own customers with some of the problems that they have because we get to have seen them first in our own environment. So if we start by looking at, why, focus on environmental efforts, well, certainly one of the predominant ones is around cost, and things like the cost of computing equipment, the cost of the energy consumed by that is key. So understanding how you're using what you have will make a difference. What you have, and certainly the vendors are doing their part by making newer products that are much more efficient. We'll see more about that later. Corporate social responsibility is typically the number 2 thing up there, but they're kind of starting to switch positions there because one of the things that we see in some of the requests for bids that we're involved with is that they're asking, what are we doing as a company in this area, and they're looking for people who are doing sustainability items in there. Then, of course, lastly, risk preparedness is another thing. As an IT group, you don't want to find yourself in the position that you can't fit that next server the business needs to do its growth because you've run out of capacity in the room, and all of a sudden you've got to do either a large data center build out or have to find some hosting provider to work with you to be able to support the business. So it's really kind of understanding the risks that you are facing by where you are relative to your capacity plans and things of that nature. And even where might you want to put your infrastructure, because you don't want to be putting it in places where you have unreliable supply, etc. So really the things that you would do to be green are all good business practices. So, what are the 2 main areas that people focus on? And the 2 of them really are around reducing the IT footprint. So the top one, this one is a chart that I've seen used many a time, where there's a lot of focus on things like the data center, such as the cooling part and the IT load part, getting that right to in the servers, the storage, the network gear. They all use power supplies, they all have fans, quite a bit of energy is used there, so understanding what you've got is important. And then, of course, it's always been the compute utilization where they're famous for records that say, well, the average compute utilization is under 20% or 15%. So there's an awful lot of capacity sitting around not being used. So people have been focusing in that area. So you've got 3 areas around how do you deal with IT footprint. But then the other side of it is IT can be very powerful to change the way a business can work. And this is what the bottom section is about, where you've got things like conferencing type solutions, whether it's video conferencing, audio conferencing, the unified communications allows people to be essentially anywhere. We've got a lot of people who work part-time from home, and to the other workers, they can't tell that they're in the home versus in the office, because the way the infrastructure has been designed, that they've got that kind of mobility power. Now that not only saves the company money, but they're also not traveling down the roads, burning up gas and polluting the air. So this is where an IT infrastructure can actually change the way business can work. You know, who likes to have to jump on a plane and travel maybe for that 1 or 2 hour meeting when you can maybe just have a teleconference with them or have a video call? So, you know, these are things that actually allow IT to change the way business works. So here's a list of things that we've been doing internally. These aren't prioritized. You know, clearly we've got a long history of focusing on optimizing the infrastructure and transforming it. It all started with moving to a central IT organization from a business unit-oriented set of groups, where once we started bringing that stuff together, we found that we had an awful lot of infrastructure. We didn't understand where it all was. We were about to enter into outsourcing partnerships, so that kind of forced us to understand what did we have. And when we started to see what we had, it was like, wow, we've got a lot of stuff, and do we really need it all? Because when you go and ask people, do you need more servers? We're doing the budget. It's like, yeah, I need more servers, need more servers. And when you'd ask them, well, how are you using them? Well, we're using them well until you start looking at the data and you find, well, actually, we're not actually use that well. You know, and, you know, are we even using some of them? So you start doing a lot of things of that nature. You'll see some of the results of that. The data center centralization, some of the key things around that is not so long ago, you know, circuit costs were so expensive. You had to have data centers close to where all your users were. And in some cases, you will still need to do some of that because of circuit costs and bandwidth needed. But clearly, you know, centralizing this made a huge difference, and I've got some charts coming up on that. And then, you know, a lot of focus has been around servers and storage, but don't forget about the voice and the network side. There's a lot of assets. On that first page, you saw we've got like 5,000 network devices there. That's a lot of assets to manage, and that takes energy. Somebody's got to engineer it, and there's products evolving. They're getting better all the time. So you got to focus there too. But this also, especially in the voice side, means that you got to be able to work with the carriers who are carrying some of this traffic, because they too need to have some of the features in their offering for you to be able to fully take advantage of some of the technical possibilities. So the second part of it really is about the communication solutions. So, you know, having deployed some of our unified communications, you know, this is my telephone. I can work here right now, or I could be at home, or I could be in the office, or I could be in Canada, and to the network. It knows where I am, it knows who I am, gets people tuning when they go. This is very powerful for location transparency. This is a perfect example of the power of that. So this is the kind of capabilities that now exist to allow companies to change what they can do. Same thing with video conferencing. I could hook a camera up to here, or I could go to a telepresence room. Big difference in price though. You know, telepresence is at the very high end of what you will spend, and needs a lot of bandwidth too. But there's a lot of other options in that spectrum that you can use for video conversations too. And a lot of conversations don't need video to be productive. In fact, many of us have many a conference every day with people who are geographically displaced, and we work perfectly fine without the video feed. So it's nice, and certain conversations need it, but it's not a necessity. And not to be outdone here, and my data center stuff isn't going to talk a lot about office solutions, but for completeness, you know, it's important not to overlook the office side that